Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Tuesday, August 11th, 2020. Today I'm going to recap yesterday's NBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball games and look ahead to the games today. I'll go over the WNBA games from yesterday, look ahead to today's games. We'll talk about the latest with college football and where things stand and what direction conferences are going. And my best bet of the day. But we have to begin the podcast with what I talked about last night with George Brew and Derek Felix, and that is the New York Rangers winning the NHL draft lottery and having the rights to select Alexis Lafreniere with the number 1 overall pick. Yesterday on the show, I predicted that Nashville was going to win it, and I simply said that's because nobody has guessed them to win. It's always like the unexpected, and this is 2020, expect the unexpected. A lot of people are saying that it was rigged because they picked that original 6-team won, and not only did an original 6-team win, it was the Rangers, and as the gentleman that was dropping the lottery balls in the machine drops the Ranger ball before Gary Bettman confirms that that's the Rangers ball. So the guy has to pick it up, and then Bettman confirms that it's the Rangers. And now a lot of people are saying that the ball is heavier than the other. And everyone was saying that it's rigged. I did say on the show, I don't remember if it was yesterday or I might have said it on What's Brewing on Saturday night, that if it was Pittsburgh, Edmonton, Toronto, or the Rangers, then people are going to say it was rigged. And yeah, it wound up being one of those 4 teams, and it is the New York Rangers. What this means for the franchise, I think this is a huge win for the franchise, their biggest win in August in franchise history, as Larry Brooks has pointed out on Twitter. Lafreniere will probably play in their top 6 next year. And the funny thing is that they have 3 excellent left wings now. They have Artemi Panarin, who's a Hart finalist. They have Lafreniere, who they're going to pick number 1 overall. Let's face it, they're not trading the pick. I think they're going to take Lafreniere number 1. And Chris Kreider. What I think that they're going to do is that they're going to move Chris Kreider to right wing and see how that would work out. Or maybe they trade one of those younger wings like Pavel Vucinovic or Filip Chytil to try to get a true number 2 center. And the question is, who could that be? Could that be somebody like Nazem Kadri? Even though he has a dirty reputation, he's an overqualified 3 center, in my opinion. But there's not really other people I could think about who they could potentially trade one of those younger wings like Filip Chytil or Pavel Vucinovic for. And that's probably their biggest weakness, a number 2 center. I mean, their defense wasn't good last year, or this season, I should say. But they have Keandre Miller and Niels Lundqvist in their farm system, who project to be very good defensemen, top 4 guys on a pairing. And they have those 2 and Adam Fox and Ryan Lindgren. That's a nice foundation on defense. And Tony DeAngelo, too, who is a restricted free agent. People think that they're going to trade him because of him being a restricted free agent and the amount of depth they have coming up. And then they have Libor Hajek, who has not been very good. He was one of the key pieces that came in that Lightning trade with Ryan McDonough and JT Miller going to Tampa. So, yeah, their biggest weakness is their number 2 center. That's what they really need. Elias Anderson's been a huge bust in the NHL. They picked him 7th overall. They traded Derek Stepan and Antti Raanta at Arizona for that pick and Tony DeAngelo. Tony DeAngelo saved that trade from being a disaster for the Rangers. Let's face it, that's facts. Tony DeAngelo had a great offensive season this past year for the Rangers. He's a very good offensive defenseman, and he saved that trade for the Rangers. And maybe if they can trade him and another piece to get a number 2 center, then hey, maybe that Stepan trade doesn't turn out to be that disaster that people think it is. And it's because of the development of Tony DeAngelo. So there's a lot of ramifications for the Rangers winning this lottery last night. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the rest of their offseason plans are. They have another first-round pick courtesy of the Carolina Hurricanes in the Brady Shea trade. Do they trade that for a number 2 center? That's another possibility. And obviously they have Mika Zibanejad as the number 1 center, and he's outstanding. He had a great year this past year for the Rangers. So, like I said, it's going to be a very, very interesting offseason for them, and they win the Alexei Lafreniere sweepstakes. Now we'll move on to actual sports, and we actually have some NHL tonight. As the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs begin. 3 games, all on NBCSN. The Blue Jackets and the Lightning. And as I go through this, I'll go over my series picks as I picked with George Brew last night on the show. This series, I'm going to go with Tampa Bay in 7. I think Columbus played them well last year, but the Lightning will ultimately come away with some revenge. I think Columbus wins Game 1. I'm going to go bold here. I think that they have a chance to win Game 1. I think they'll steal Game 1, but not win the series. I felt that way about Chicago in the previous round, but they wound up winning that series anyway. And sometimes you don't have to win Game 1 to win the series. And I believe all 8 teams that won their respective series in the qualifying round won Game 1. Yeah, the Hurricanes, the Islanders, Columbus won Game 1. Somebody else that won, the Islanders, the Hurricanes, the Blue Jackets, and the Canadiens all won Game 1. And on the other side, the Blackhawks, the Coyotes, even though that series went 5 and went 4 and that 4th game was in overtime. The Coyotes. Oh, the Minnesota Wild won Game 1, but not the series. So much for that. That all 8 teams that won their series in the qualifying round won Game 1. Minnesota won Game 1. So, that's that. They won Game 1. Arizona won Game 1. Chicago won Game 1. And, trying to think of the other series out in the other side. Calgary won Game 1. So the lone team to win Game 1 but not to win their series was the Minnesota Wild. Columbus is plus 140 tonight on FanDuel against the Lightning. So I'm going to go with the Blue Jackets to pull off the upset in Game 1. 5:30 NBCSN, the Flames and the Stars. I love Calgary. I picked them in 7 to win the series. I do think they'll win Game 1. They're even money, plus 100. So give me Calgary to win Game 1. 8 o'clock NBCSN, the Hurricanes and the Bruins. This is another fun series. Dougie Hamilton back for Carolina. I'm going to go Boston in 6. I'm not sure that Hamilton will look like himself right away. I'm going to take the Bruins to win Game 1. So give me Boston here to win Game 1 to get off to a good start. And 10:30 NBCSN, Blackhawks, Golden Knights. I picked Golden Knights in 6, but guess what? I'm going Chicago to win Game 1 again. I just think the value for the Blackhawks here is just insane. They are plus 170 to win Game 1. I think Vegas wins in 6, but I'm going to say Chicago wins Game 1 and maybe, let's say, Game 4 or something like that. Game 5. They'll still 2 games, but I think one of them will be Game 1. So give me the Blackhawks to steal Game 1. So I'm going with 4 underdogs to win outright. Columbus, Calgary, and Chicago just for tonight. But I do think the Golden Knights and the Lightning will win their respective series, although I have them losing Game 1. And I think that Boston will win Game 1 against the Carolina Hurricanes tonight. So there's my NHL picks for the games today. Now I'm going to go over the NBA results from yesterday and look ahead to the games today. Suns over the Thunder 128-101. Phoenix 32-39, 6-0 in the bubble. OKC 43-27. So my best bet was trashed yesterday. Devin Booker had 35, and Darius Bazley, who has been a surprise guy for the Thunder in the bubble, had 22. Mavs over the Jazz 122-114. The Mavs are 43-30. Utah's 43-28. Tim Hardaway Jr. 27. Jordan Clarkson with 18. Raptors over the Bucks 114-106. No Giannis and no Fred VanVleet and no Serge Ibaka in this one. Chris Boucher of the Raptors had 25, and Kyle Korver had 19. And Kyle Lowry didn't play last night either. So Giannis, his absence proved to be the reason why Milwaukee lost that game. If they had Giannis, they probably win, especially with Toronto not having those three players that are all important to them. The Heat over the Pacers 114-92. The Heat 44-27. Indiana 43-28. Jimmy Butler back, 19 points. Victor Oladipo had 14 for Indiana. TJ Warren had a predictable regression game, and it was a long time coming for a TJ Warren regression game, but happened against Miami. Lakers over the Nuggets 124-121. The best game of the day in the bubble for sure. 52-18 are the Lakers. Denver 46-25. I loved Denver to cover this game as well against the Lakers, and they wound up doing so. LeBron at 29 with 12 assists. PJ Dozier led the Nuggets in scoring with 18. And now today's games for the NBA. I'm going to go over all of them and obviously do what I've been doing the last almost 2 weeks now with the gambling pick and whether I'm going side or total. So the first game is the Nets against the Magic. Orlando is favored by 5 points according to FanDuel. I'm not sure if there's any injury news to report regarding Brooklyn and Orlando, but obviously no Jonathan Isaacs for the Orlando Magic. But Brooklyn tweeted out no Jared Allen, no Joe Harris, no Karis LeVert, no Garrett Temple, no Jamal Crawford. So a couple big names there out for this game for Brooklyn. So Karis LeVert, take away 2 points. So he's worth 2 to the spread. Jared Allen's not even on my spreadsheet. And then neither is Joe Harris, although Tobias Harris is, but that's a different Harris. So no Karis LeVert. That's a big deal for the Nets. Orlando, meanwhile, obviously I mentioned earlier, no Isaac, which is a huge loss for them. No Aaron Gordon. No Tyson Ross. Terrence Ross, Tyson Ross. Wrong sport. And no Bo Bamba. So Evan Fournier's out for Orlando. And so is Isaacs. So Evan Fournier, 1.5. And then Aaron Gordon. So those two players are combined worth 3. And no Karis LeVert either. So this is going to be a tough one to handicap. So it would have been -1 if all those guys are in favor of Orlando. No Karis LeVert would make it Orlando 3. And take away those two players I just talked about for Orlando, it's a pick'em. So this should really be a pick'em. The spread just went down to 4.5. So I still take the Brooklyn Nets plus 4.5 against the Magic. Do I think that they're going to win? Probably not, because they don't have anybody. But Orlando's guys are sitting as well. That spread went from 5 to 4.5 just now. So give me Brooklyn plus 4.5. I agree with the line movement here. That is a pretty big spread. Houston and San Antonio isn't listed as of right now. According to this list, San Antonio is -5 on ESPN. Got to look at the Rockets injury report, obviously, because obviously you question yourself, why the hell are the Spurs favored over the Rockets? So that's very strange that the Spurs are favored over. So no James Harden, that makes sense. No Eric Gordon and no Harden. So now we know why. So James Harden's worth a whopping 7 points to the point spread. Eric Gordon I don't have worth anything. Derek White might miss the game today. So with Harden, the Rockets would have been favored over the Spurs by 9.5 points. Without Harden, it should be Houston by 2. And the line is taken off right now and says San Antonio by 5. I'm taking the Rockets plus the 5, even without Harden. Westbrook's going to play. I think the Rockets can still win, and Westbrook can go crazy. So give me the Rockets plus the 5 against the Spurs. 4:30, you have the Suns and the Sixers. The Suns are favored by a whopping 10, but that's because Embiid's out and so is Simmons. And Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons are each worth 4 points against the spread. Suns, the Sixers with Embiid should be -1.5. Without Embiid, it should be Phoenix by 2.5. Like, is Tobias Harris out for this game as well? Because that is crazy that the Suns are favored by 10 over the Philadelphia 76ers. Everybody's down on Philly. So Ben Simmons out for the year. No Embiid either. I'm taking the Sixers plus the 10. Phoenix will win, but the 76ers will cover. The Celtics and the Grizzlies, that's at 5 o'clock. And by the way, Brooklyn, Orlando's on at 1. Houston, San Antonio's 2. Phoenix, Philly's at 4:30. 5 o'clock is Boston against Memphis. Boston's favored by 3.5 over the Memphis Grizzlies. The Celtics should be favored by 10 over the Grizzlies, if you ask me. But I'm going to look at the Celtics injury report and question why the hell is that line super, super low. I think the Boston Celtics are undervalued here. So Thies? Really? Because of Daniel Thies? Like, come on. The Celtics -3.5 is money. So give me the Boston Celtics -3.5 over the Grizzlies. That's a really good pick in my mind. And the juice is going towards Memphis. -3.5 for Boston's -106. Amazing. Oh my goodness. 6:30, Portland and Dallas. Portland's favored by 2.5 over the Mavs. Gonna see if Porzingis and Doncic are playing. No Luka Doncic. Oh, so it looks like they are playing. NBA lineup alert. Mavericks players Doncic and Porzingis are not. So that's good news. So that to me is bizarre that the Mavericks are getting points against the Blazers. The Mavs should be 4-point favorites with those guys. So give me Dallas plus 2.5. They're winning that game outright against Portland. Milwaukee and Washington. Milwaukee's a 9-point favorite over the hapless Wizards. Let's see if Giannis is playing. He probably isn't playing because that line is so low. And with Giannis, the Bucks should be favored by more than 20. Should be favored by 22.5. But without Giannis, it should be like Bucks by 17. It should be like where that Nets number was. Give me the Bucks -8 against Washington. Like, that's insane. And then Sacramento, New Orleans is the 9 o'clock game tonight. No Zion, no Ingram, and no Drew Holiday. Zion's worth 2. Drew Holiday and Ingram are each worth 1.5. With those guys, the Pelicans should be favored by 2.5. Those guys aren't there. So, Sacramento should be actually favored over the Pelicans in this game without those players. So, it should be Sacramento by 2.5. The wrong team's favored here. Oh, wait, no. Sacramento is favored by 2.5. My bad. I thought it said New Orleans -2.5. I was wrong. All right, bad job by me. The line's correct. I thought it said New Orleans by 2.5. But, yeah, that line is absolutely correct. Sacramento by 2.5. Give me the under 235.5 as the play here. Those 3 players being out, I think, is a big deal. And it hurts the Pelicans offensively. So give me the under 235.5 in that game. Okay. Now we'll move on to Major League Baseball, where the slate wasn't that big last night, although the slate's a little bigger tonight with some teams returning from their respective off days. Phils over the Braves 13-8. The Phils 5-6. Atlanta 11-7. Aaron Nola the win. Sean Newcomb the loss. Home runs in this game: Bryce Harper, Travis d'Arnaud, Roman Quinn, Didi Gregorius grand slam, Gene Segura, JT Realmuto, Johan Camargo, Austin Riley. And by the way, the Braves scored a whopping 7 runs in the 9th inning to make that game look a little bit more respectable. Nola 8 innings, 2 hits and a run, a walk, 10 strikeouts, ERA 2.79. Newcomb, an inning in the third, 6 hits, 8 runs, 2 walks, and a strikeout, ERA 11.2. By the way, Sean Newcomb option to alternate site after the game. Tigers over the White Sox 5-1. The Tigers are 9-5. The White Sox are 8-9. Danny Norris the win. Dallas Keuchel the loss. Nico Goodrum and Jacoby Jones homered in this game. Michael Fulmer 3 innings, 3 hits, no runs, a walk, 2 strikeouts, ERA 6.35. The Tigers, by the way, 9-5. That's a huge surprise in the AL Central. Dallas Keuchel 6 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, ERA 3.04. Nats over the Mets 16-4. Nats 5-7. Mets 7-10. Patrick Corbin the win. Steven Matz the loss. Second time this year the Mets got absolutely crushed at home by a division opponent. The other time being on Sunday Night Baseball a few weeks ago against Atlanta. Asdrubal Cabrera, Trey Turner, Juan Soto, Cabrera again, and Brandon Nimmo all homered in this game. Patrick Corbin 6 innings, 5 hits and a run, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, ERA 2.5. Steven Matz 4 in the third, 8 hits, 8 earned runs, no walks, 5 strikeouts, ERA 8.2. Rays over the Red Sox 8-7. The Rays are 9-8. Boston 6-10. Aaron Loup to win. The loss, Jeffrey Springs to save Andrew Kitteridge. Home runs, JT Martinez, and that's it. That was his first home run of the season, by the way. The opener for Boston was Ryan Brazier. An inning, a hit, no runs, a walk, and a strikeout. ERA 7.2. Ryan Yarbrough, 4 in the third, 5 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, and a strikeout. ERA 4.71. Twins over the Brewers 4-2. The Twins are 11-6. Milwaukee 6-8. Ryan Dobnak to win, Adrian Hauser to loss, and Taylor Rogers with the save. Home runs in this game, Eddie Rosario, a grand slam, and Keston Yura. Dobnak, 5 innings, 4 hits, and a run, a walk, 3 strikeouts, ERA 0.9. Hauser, 5 innings, 6 hits, 4 runs, a walk, 4 strikeouts, ERA 2.65. Diamondbacks over the Rockies 12-8. The D-backs are 7-10, much needed win for them. Colorado 11-5. Getting the win, Alex Young. The loss, John Gray. The save, almost said Avery Bradley. Archie Bradley. Home runs, Cole Calhoun, Trevor Story, Chris Owings, who's been a surprise for Colorado this year. Robbie Wright, 3 2/3, 7 6 runs, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts, ERA 10.59. John Gray, 3 1/3, 11 hits, 8 runs, no walks, 2 strikeouts, ERA 6.41. Astros over the Giants 6-4. This game was on ESPN. Houston 7-9. San Francisco 7-11. Lance McCullers Jr. to win. Logan Webb the loss. Ryan Presley to saves. 2 homers in this game. Martin Maldonado and Austin Slater. Lance McCullers, 7 innings, a hit, no runs, no walks, 5 strikeouts, ERA 6.1. Logan Webb 3 1/3, 4 hits, 2 runs, a walk, 3 strikeouts, ERA 2.81. Mariners over the Rangers 10-2. The Mariners are 7-11. Texas is 6-9. Justin Dunn the win. Kyle Gibson the loss. Home runs, Kyle Lewis and Kyle Seager. Oh, and Dylan Moore too for Seattle. Justin Dunn, his best start so far. 6 innings, 7 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, ERA 4.85. Kyle Gibson, regression, 4 1/3, 9 hits, 4 runs, a walk, 2 strikeouts, ERA 4.11. Angels over the A's 10-9. The Angels are 6-11. Oakland 12-5. Getting the win was Felix Pena. The loss is Mario Petit. The save, Ty Buttery. Homers, Anthony Rendon, Matt Chapman. Actually, Chapman twice. Mike Trout twice. Shohei Ohtani. And that's it. Julio Teheran, 2 innings, 5 hits, 5 runs, 2 walks, and a strikeout. ERA 13.5. Sean Manaea, 2 2/3, 7 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, and a strikeout. ERA of 9. Padres over the Dodgers 2-1. The Padres are 10-7. The Dodgers are 11-6. Kel Quantrill the win. Dustin May the loss. Drew Pomeranz the save. Home run in this game by Austin Hedges. All right, tonight's game, 6:30, Marlins Blue Jays. Alicia Hernandez and Hyunjin Ryu. Hernandez, no decisions with the 0 ERA, whip of 1.69, or 0.69, I should say. Ryu, 1-1 with a 5.14 ERA, whip of 1.5. Royals, Reds. Chris Bubic and Luis Castillo. Both pitchers are 0-2. Bubic, 3.6, whip of 1. Castillo, 4.76 ERA, whip of 1.41. 7 o'clock, the Braves against the Yankees. Touki Toussaint against Jordan Montgomery. Toussaint, no decisions with the 6.08 ERA, whip of 1.2. Montgomery, 1-1 with a 5.59 ERA, whip of 1.34. Orioles and the Phillies. Alex Cobb and Zach Wheeler. Cobb, 1-1 with a 2.51 ERA, whip of 1.12. Wheeler, 2-0 with a 2.08 ERA, whip of 1.15. Cubs Indians. On Fox Sports 1, John Lester and Adam Plutko. Lester 1-0 with a .82 ERA, whip of .55. Plutko 1-0 with a 2.57 ERA, whip of .86. This is a great pitching matchup, 2 good teams. If I'm not mistaken, I think Mike Clevenger was supposed to start this game, but obviously he got scratched due to him and teammate Zach Plesac not following the COVID protocols. In terms of a pick for this game, I think the time off is going to hurt the Cubs. I think John Lester is going to be due for a bad start. So I'm going to go with the Indians here at home against the Cubs. White Sox Tigers, Gio Gonzalez and Tyler Alexander. Gonzalez 0-1 with a 7.71 ERA, whip of 2.31. Alexander 1-0 with a 1.17 ERA, whip of .65. Nats Mets, Max Scherzer, Rick Porcello. Scherzer 0-1 with a 3.29 ERA, whip of 1.34. Porcello 1-1 with a 6.92 ERA, whip of 1.77. 7:30, the Rays against the Red Sox. Andrew Kittredge against Martin Perez. Kittredge 0-0 with a 2.35 ERA, whip of 1.17. Perez 2-1 with a 3.45 ERA, whip of 1.34. 8 o'clock, Twins Brewers. Tyler Clippard and Josh Lindblom. Clippard being the opener for Minnesota, no decisions with a 1.17 ERA, whip of .78. Lindblom 1-0 with a 4.15 ERA, whip of 1.27. 8:40, the Diamondbacks and the Rockies. Zach Gallen against Kyle Freeland. Gallen 0-0 with a 2.81 ERA, whip of 1.25. Freeland 2-0 with a 2.41 ERA, whip of 1.07. Mariners Rangers, Marco Gonzalez and Mike Minor. Gonzalez 2-1 with a 3.06 ERA, whip of .74. Minor 0-3 with a 6.89 ERA, whip of 1.34. Minor has been terrible this season. Classic regression from last year. Giants Astros, Tyler Anderson and Brandon Bielak. Anderson 0-1 with a 2.19 ERA, whip of 1.46. Bielak 2-0 with a .87 ERA, whip of 1.16. Athletics Angels, Mike Fiers and Dylan Bundy. Fiers 1-0 with a 5.63 ERA, whip of 1.31. Bundy 2-1 with a 2.08 ERA, whip of .6. Padres Dodgers, Garrett Richards and Ross Stripling. Richards 0-1 with a 4.6 ERA, whip of 1.21. Stripling 3-0 with a 4 ERA, whip of 1. Now I'm going to go over the WNBA games from yesterday and look ahead to tonight's slate of games. We had some good games yesterday in the women's. Sun over the Dream, 93-82. The Sun are 2-6, and the Dream 5 losses in a row. They're down 2-6. Alyssa Thomas had 21 for Connecticut, and Shakina Strickland at 18 for Atlanta. Mercury over the Wings, 91-79. The Mercury are 5-3. Dallas 3-5. Skylar Diggins-Smith had 26. Arike Ogunbali had 22. Storm over the Sky, 89-71. Seattle, or WNBA best, 7-1. Chicago 5-3. Allie Quigley at 13. Brianna Stewart 25. You got a couple games tonight. 7 o'clock ESPN2. You have the Aces and the Fever. Should be a good game tonight. Between two teams I think are very talented. I think Vegas is just better. They have a better coach. So give me Aces tonight over the Fever. 9 o'clock ESPN2, you have the Mystics and the Lynx. The Lynx have been a pleasant surprise so far this season. But the Mystics, I think, have been a little better than I thought as well. Don't have a good feel about this, but I'm going to go with the Lynx. But I don't feel good about it. And then 10 o'clock, the Liberty and the Sparks. So Liberty trying to weather the storm without Sabrina Ionescu, and the Sparks are a team that's pretty good. They have a bad coach in Derek Fisher. You guys know how I feel about Derek Fisher. I think he's a horrible, horrible coach. Liberty have the new coach in Walt Hawkins. I might go with the upset. I think the Liberty win again. They have to start winning games in the bubble. They should have beaten the Aces the other day, but the Aces are just the better team, quite frankly. And better teams win. And if they had Ionescu in that game, they probably win. But I'm going to go with the Liberty here for an upset. I think Kia Nurse will lead the way for them. Now I want to talk about college football really quick. There's supposed to be an announcement today made by the Big Ten and the Pac-12 regarding on what they plan on doing for the college football season. They are two of the conferences that are leaning towards canceling their football seasons for this year. Meanwhile, the ACC is going to follow the SEC's lead on playing, and I think the Big 12 will side with the SEC and the ACC as well. To me, it's a surprise that the ACC took the side of the SEC rather than the Big 10. Normally you would think that the ACC would go with the Big Ten and the Pac-12, but hey, I was wrong there. But I think there's going to be an announcement at some point today that the Big Ten and the Pac-12 will cancel their respective football seasons. And that's very sad. Some of these Big Ten coaches and players are wanting to play. Jim Harbaugh wants to play. James Franklin wants to play. So maybe I'm wrong and they don't cancel. And those are two big-name coaches in the sport and two very good coaches, too, that want to play. Scott Frost wants to play. Kirk Ferentz at Iowa wants to play. And there's a vote among the Big Ten schools. A majority of them want to cancel the season. The two that voted against canceling the season were indeed Nebraska and Iowa. And then there's talks about Nebraska going to their original Big 8 roots and maybe playing with the Big 12 if the Big 12 has its season, which I do think the Big 12 is going to play. I think the Big 12 will side with the SEC and the ACC here. And the Pac-12, the reason why I'm worried about the Pac-12 is because the majority of their schools are in California. I'm talking about USC and Stanford and UCLA, and Governor Gavin Newsom has just been very, very strict with COVID and stuff out there, and that's why I worry about the Pac-12. I think the SEC will play. I think the Big 12 will play. I think the ACC will play. The Sun Belt's playing. Mountain West already canceled its season. That was news coming from yesterday. MAC canceled. So no MACtion this year. Or this fall, I should say. They might do the spring. You never know. UConn, that was the first FBS program to do it. But they stink. And they probably are only going to win one game this season anyway. And like I said, it's the schools that are going to cancel are the schools that don't have all the money. The SEC can afford a lot of testing. And some of these Big 12 schools like Texas and Oklahoma can afford testing. Even some of the ACC schools, I think, can afford it, like Florida State and Clemson. Trevor Lawrence is in favor of playing. And you know Trevor Lawrence wants to come back because he's the best player in college football, the projected number 1 overall pick in the draft. And guess what? Clemson's supposed to be the best team in the country this year, too. And there's talks about a college football playoff still happening. But that's obviously going to change if the Big Ten does indeed cancel its season, unless they do a college football playoff with the ACC winner, the Big 12, and SEC, and maybe SEC gets 2 in or ACC gets 2 in potentially. But I could see that working out, or a group of 5 gets in if Sun Belt or the AAC is a huge wild card too, by the way. Nobody's talked about what they're going to do. Obviously, UConn canceled, but UConn's going to the Big East next year anyway. They're leaving. So I think the AAC is a huge wild card. Mountain West canceling is a big deal, and a bigger deal than people think because Air Force is there. Although Air Force came out and said that they're going to try to play their military rivals like Navy and Army. So maybe Air Force will play a little bit. Sunbelt's playing, as I mentioned, and Conference USA is another one that we haven't talked about yet. Old Dominion canceled its fall football season. They quite simply just can't afford it. Rice announced that they're delaying the start of their season until September 26th. So you got that coming from Rice. So to me, the big wild card still out there is the AAC. Like I said, Mountain West canceling, I think, is a bigger deal than people think because that's a quality conference, but they just don't get the love it deserves because they have so many good teams in that conference. And obviously, Boise State is a staple to college football. It's certainly the FBS over the past decade or so. So they're going to miss Boise State. So that's a huge reason why losing the Mountain West is such a huge deal. And if we have any news regarding this situation by tonight or whenever it comes, you'll hear me talk about more about whatever decision the Pac-12 and the Big Ten make, and as well as the Big 12 and everybody else on this podcast. Now my best bet of the day, brought to you by FanDuel. I hinted at it earlier. It's the Celtics minus the 3.5 against the Grizzlies. I thought about going with, obviously, Brooklyn, but I feel much better about the Boston Celtics than I do about the Brooklyn Nets covering. So give me the Boston Celtics minus the 3. It went down to 3 against the Memphis Grizzlies. So that's it for the show today. I'll be back tomorrow, obviously, recapping all the games in the NBA, WNBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball, any college football related news regarding to decisions with COVID. I'll have for you on the show as well. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.